Today's episode is presented by Early Bird. Early Bird is the simplest way for parents, families, and friends to collectively invest in a child's financial future, starting at the earliest age. Early Bird's mobile app empowers parents and families to start saving for their child's financial future in a matter of minutes, while activating a child's broader community to gift contributions on, birthdays, holidays, any occasion. Realistically, as a parent and somebody who has had to deal with having a family-funded child issue, it's never too early to start saving. And realistically, this is a great idea because you can, instead of saying, oh, well, here's $5 in cash in your birthday card, little Johnny, you can actually put the money away and invest it. And maybe when it's time for them to go to college or to go out and get out on their own if they're not going to go to college, or if you need bail money, I don't know how your kid's going to turn out. The point is, it's never too early to start developing financial literacy. I wish somebody would have taken me off to the side when I was a young parent and said, put away money now for your kid's future. You won't regret it. We're teaming up with Early Bird to give our listeners a free $15 investment to gift to a child you love. Simply go to partners.getearlybird.io/podcast, or to make it easier, click the link in the show notes, download the app, set up your account today. Early Bird. Build the nest and invest in the children you love. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. Today, we're not going to have necessarily a specific topic, more just kind of a general conversation about the way things are going in the world at the moment. And for anyone who's living under a rock, you're probably not hearing this, but first off, I want to welcome any new listeners, just on the off chance somebody stumbled across this by accident. I've noticed in a couple other shows recently have been mentioned, and there's always a possibility there may be a new person coming in. If this is your first episode, welcome. But the current state of the world is one that is going to require a little discussion, and if you want to know where I stand on a lot of things, you can go through the back catalog. There is plenty of rants and raves and me carrying on about pretty much a little bit of everything. But to give you the Cliff Notes summary, I am a big believer in personal responsibility and personal liberty. I try to stay out of the tinfoil hat regions of extremism. I don't agree with extremism in any respects. I'm a firm believer that if you live your life without hurting anybody else, that's your business, and nobody has the right to tell you yay or nay. Like I said, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, whatever you want to do with your own life is your own choice, and if you don't like that, this is not the show for you. Now, that being said, there is some things going on in the world. Everybody knows what's going on. We've got, the 15 days to flatten the curve that started a year and a half ago is still going on. We're looking at entering another phase of lockdowns here in the U.S. We have a lot of politicians calling for it, and without going too deep into the rabbit hole of I don't trust the government, the simple fact of the matter is I don't trust politicians. I love this country. I think it's one of the best countries in the world. I don't trust the assholes that are leading it. A long time ago, somebody said that the people most likely to seek positions of power are generally the least qualified to be in them, and I firmly believe that. Anyone who's actively spending millions and millions of dollars to get into a job that pays $126,000 a year is not doing it out of any sense of altruism. There's some ulterior motives on there, and that's... Anyway, that's not the point of what I want to talk about. So we're at the point where we are now facing the Delta variant of Corona. And the thing about it is, I'm not one that's out there to spread misinformation. I'm not going to take a stance. I'm not a firm anti-vaxxer or anything like that. I'm not saying I'm not going to be one of those people that's saying, since you didn't do what I believe, that's the reason we're in the shit we're in. The only thing I believe that is the reason we're in the shit we're in is because we're allowing people who don't have our best interests at heart to dictate our situations. I do believe in common sense. I do believe in doing things that are, yeah, they may be a little inconvenient, but if they help minimize the spread of something that's not a good thing. A lot of people got sick from, I don't deny COVID. I'm not somebody who's saying, oh, well, this didn't happen, or it's fake, or it's a conspiracy. It is a thing. Now, compared to a lot of other things, it's not far away from being the most lethal thing on the planet. It's very communicable, yes. But it's not, it has an extremely high survival rate. For the people who it doesn't fall on that side of the coin, for the people that die from it, it's a horrible, shitty, terrible fucking thing to go through. The people who get hit hard by it suffer terribly, and the people who die from it, yes, they're completely dead. It's not conspiracy dead, it's really dead. And I'm not opposed to vaccines. There's things that prove vaccines are not a bad thing, like when's the last time you met somebody that had polio? You don't see a lot of kids walking around in leg braces these days, and that's because vaccinations do work. However, I'm also not real supportive of these people that are, calling for vaccination passports and all this other shit. I don't believe, it's kind of a sticky subject. Like, when I was a kid, you had to show your vaccination records if you wanted to get into school. If you did not want to partake of the necessary vaccinations to go to school, you had alternatives, but they were not to say, okay, well, we're still going to go here. You could go to a private school where those things were not necessarily required. There are communities of people that don't believe in vaccination that are isolated from the rest of the world. I think that's your right. If you want to put yourself into that situation, so be it. If you're in the general population area, there are certain things you have to follow and abide by. On the other side of that coin, do I think you should be able to say, look, you have to show me your papers if you want to come in here and buy groceries? I think that's kind of overstepping a line. And the biggest problem I have is with the attitude behind the people who are, there's no compromising. There's no finding a middle ground. It's my way's right and your way, you're a fucking idiot for believing what you believe. And it's coming from both sides. And the irony is not lost on me that both sides want to accuse the other side of being the intolerant, understanding assholes. There's a lot of hypocrisy floating around right now. And I look at things like the way Australia has been dealing with their reactions to the Delta variant and these massive lockdowns, and the imposition of humongous fines on people that are violating them and things like that. And I noticed that a lot of these people that are endorsing these really draconian measures and these harsh crackdowns, as long as it's aligning with their particular set of beliefs, are also the same ones that, when it comes to things that they don't agree with, are the most vocal screechers about how their rights are being infringed upon and their personal beliefs are being violated, because it's like, to say it's cut from a general bolt, a lot of the same people who are really comfortable saying I have a right and a choice because it's my body and my rights and blah, 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 when it comes to matters of things like reproductive rights, which, again, that's a whole different topic. If you want to know where I stand on those things, go through the back catalog. You can't really use that as an argument without being a little bit of a hypocrite if it's only in the context of, like, being pro-choice or being whatever. If you're trying to use the defense that what happens to my body is up to me, you can't discredit that when you're trying to enforce your beliefs about something else, like saying you have to get vaccinated because it's for the greater good or whatever. No, it's still, you're trying to assert dominion over someone else's body. Now, I'm a personal believer, I guess I will rehash this just because I feel like I need to say this, is when it comes to pro-life, pro-choice issues, I look at it like this. I have testicles. it's none of my fucking business. I should not be writing policy telling a woman what she can or can't do with her body based on my personal beliefs. If I was in a situation where it was an issue, I would have a conversation with the person involved with it, and we would come to a conclusion based on, I do have input on that one, because if there's a kid involved, it's going to be my kid. But beyond that, I don't have a right to tell anybody what to do with their body, regardless. I don't have a right to tell you what you can and can't ingest. I don't have a right to tell you what you can and can't imbibe. I don't have a right to tell you who you can and can't sleep with the exception of, if you want, I say this on a pretty regular basis, if you're into any of that creepy pedophilia, harmful physically and psychologically to other people type shit, if you are a rapist, you are garbage and you need to die. But, dead offenders don't repeat offend. That's just simple logic, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But beyond that, what you do with your body, yeah, it's your body, your choice. And I get that. And part of that, though, is having the freedom to make those choices, is having the responsibility of dealing with the consequences. And that is just pretty much a summation of how I feel about more or less everything. Is having a right to something is not an excuse to be exempt from the consequences of that right. And while I'm not going to say people shouldn't be getting vaccinated, people shouldn't be trying to be socially conscious about the impacts of these viruses, we don't require people to show proof of a flu shot. We don't require people to show proof of the vast majority of the things that they require inoculations for, other than things, like I said, like polio and things that were super huge problematic issues. And everybody acting like the Delta variant is going to be the new end of the world. And all these other things that kind of take on a tone of fear-mongering and just ridiculousness, because as much as I hate to echo a reckless attitude, at the end of the day, based on the numbers, the survivability of COVID-19 and its variants so far has been very high. And for the people who have not survived it, yes, it's been terrible. For a lot of the people who have gotten severely sick with it, it has been fucking terrible. I'm not trying to deny that fact. But at the end of the day, it hasn't been this massive lethal plague that's wiping out the vast majority of the planet. And in certain ways, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion kind of thing, but, since when have I given a shit about that? The simple fact of the matter is, honestly, the human race could use a little purging, and I don't necessarily think that, I'm not saying any of this is good, but things have gotten out of hand to a certain extent. The population of this planet, in relation of the human race, our species, in pretty much every other species in nature, there are checks and balances to stop things from getting out of control. Things are allowed to starve off, to die off. Other creatures have predators that keep their population numbers in check. We as a species have more or less removed that factor. Not a lot of us have, other than ourselves, other than other human beings, we don't really have a predator that we have to have a real concern about. Our numbers are not culled through any sort of natural selection. To compound that, we have more or less idiot-proofed so many aspects of our society that we have a unchecked population. We have a breeding pool that is just geometrically rising, and a finite number of resources on this planet. And while I'm not a huge, I'm not supporting eugenics or any of this other shit, but we need to start being smarter about how we exist. We don't have everything we need for unlimited population growth. And in today's day and age, there are enough birth control methods and things out there that we should be utilizing to keep those numbers in check. I'm not saying I support anything like the single child policy or anything like that. I think those things are also draconian and stupid because they lead to problems in and of themselves. If you don't believe me, think about how many girls were killed in countries that had single-child population policies because people wanted to carry on their name and their bloodline and only wanted sons for whatever stupid fucking reason that they had. And people are going to say, oh, you can't shit on other cultures. Yes, I can. Saying the only acceptable child we can have is a son is fucking stupid. I don't care what your reasoning behind it is. If you birth a child, you should be able to say, look, it's my child, that's my progeny, and I love them regardless. Not, I need to have a son to carry on my fucking name. Who gives a shit about a name? I mean, your bloodline's still carrying on if that's really something you want to focus on. So, fucking get over it. So you had a daughter. Big deal. You don't drown the baby to, say, oh, no, it's not a son. But yeah, so this wound up going real dark. Yeah, I'm not saying we need eugenics. I'm not saying we should be culling the population. What I am saying is maybe take the warning labels off of shit. And then we just kind of, let natural selection do its thing. And hope that the people don't breed before they take themselves out of the equation. Because I do kind of believe Idiocracy was right. If you haven't seen it, great movie. Go check it out. It's hilarious. But there's a valid point there. The global population does seem, despite the availability of more information than ever in our recorded history, we're getting dumber. I mean, we have all the resources in the world at our fingertips, and the aggregate common sense quotient is next to nil at this point in some cases. So, maybe just take a crack at letting nature sort itself out a little bit. One of those things about the lockdowns and the initial pandemic stuff was a lot of people were saying, hey, look at how much just everybody staying home for the couple months impacted the environment and how much better the planet is. So maybe, yeah, we do start letting people work from home when it's feasible, because if we've learned anything in the last year and a half, it's that a lot of jobs can be done without management standing right over your shoulder, and you're still hitting your productivity marks. You're still accomplishing things. People want to work. They want to be useful. They want to be productive. It gives them some meaning and some perspective on life. Nobody wants to just sit around being there are people that are going to sit around and be jagoffs all day, but if you're in an office with people like that, they're still going to sit around and be jagoffs all day. It's just they're going to bring down everybody else. I mean, it brings down the curve, And I'm saying this as somebody who's looking at the potential of the resumption of lockdowns in the States. I'm still going to have to go to work every day. I'm not going to be commuting. This is a conversation we've already had at my place of employment, where we're going to be maintaining a skeleton crew. And guess who's on that crew that has to come to work, because my job does not allow me to work from home. My position doesn't translate well to not being in my place of employment, because everything I need to do my job is there. So, yeah, I'm going to still be going to work, and I'm fine with that. You know why? Because there's going to be about 8 people in the entire office, and I don't have to worry about really much of anything. So, that's good. And frankly, from a completely selfish perspective, since I do have to commute, I also kind of like the lockdowns because the traffic is so much nicer when nobody's going anywhere. There's the environmental impact. There's the fact that it's construction season here in the Midwest, but realistically, the first 7 months of me going to my new job, the commute was absolutely wonderful because nobody was on the road except for truckers and a few people going back and forth to work. And living as close to Chicago as I do, and commuting in that particular mess of a traffic situation, it was nice. It was nice being able to get on the highway and not have to worry about hitting big backups and bottlenecks. And now that we've started to return to normalcy, that my commute has definitely changed. And so if they do wind up implementing a second lockdown, I'll take it as a mixed bag. I mean, part of me really kind of grieves for my industry because I don't know if the restaurant and service industry can really handle another hit like being shut down for 6 or 8 months. I know a lot of catering places and things like that have shuttered their windows and closed for good because they lost so much business. They couldn't recover. They couldn't get through it. All these businesses still have bills to pay and things like that. And as much as the government's happy handing out our tax money to a bunch of other countries to pay for a bunch of shit that's irrelevant, the businesses and the people in this country, for the trillions of dollars they spent in their stimulus package bills, only a couple billion of it went to actual American citizens. So, I'd like to give another big fuck you to the government for that too. So, thanks. But at the end of the day, it's all really, kind of beyond my control. And as much as I would like to think the world's going to be shiny and happy and better, there's enough of that cynic in there where I'm like, the fact that I keep having the need to talk about certain things just makes me kind of despair for the future. And I lay a lot of that at the feet of things that, people are getting way too confident in. They know what they're talking about. We know what's best. I know this. They're buying in way too hard to their own dogmas and their own doctrine without questioning things anymore. And I think a lot of that's by design, again, without going off the deep end on the conspiracy theory shit. But I've been noticing there's a lot of conspiracy theories out, that things that 20 years ago were considered conspiracy theories that now are, we're coming to find out, hey, look, these people were right. And, there's cover-ups and there's all kinds of things going on. And yet, at the same time, we still look at the people who are questioning this shit and questioning everything like they're crazy or they're idiots. And when did curiosity, actually, if you go, again, referencing history, you go back and you look at things, and it's always been the case where curiosity and questioning things, there are people that approve of it and people that don't. And we look at periods of mass questioning and things where a lot of development and forward strides in all sorts of progress were made, and we consider those periods of enlightenment, and we talk about unquestioning of acceptance of religion or unquestioning acceptance of the state or whatever. And we generally, looking back, we refer to those as dark ages. But at the same time, we have so many people now that are basically stumping for these same approaches to life. And, our way is the right way and don't question anything. And if you question something, you're an idiot, you're a conspiracy theorist, or you're crazy. And instead of, embracing critical thinking and analysis and, for lack of a better way of putting it, using things like scientific methodology where you do question things and you double question things and you verify things and then you have peers verify things and peer reviews. Instead of that, it's, well, this is the source I choose to believe in, and if you don't accept this, you're not accepting science. You have to accept this because it meets my standards, not because it's been proven time and time again, but because it's been proven to my satisfaction. Therefore, if you don't agree with me anymore, you're crazy. And it's a mixed bag because no one thinks they're feeling this way. Everybody's like, oh no, well, I accept this because it's fact and everyone else is nuts. And I feel like I'm talking around in circles here, but ultimately, at some point, like I said, we lost critical thinking. We lost the ability to question things without it being a social matter more than anything else, without having to worry about being mocked or derided or any of these other things. Instead of encouraging curiosity, instead of encouraging advancement, we're falling back into a Dark Ages mindset where it's like, this is the truth, and if you question the truth, you are an idiot, you are a bad person, you are this, you are that. And that mentality, more than anything else, is what worries me. When educational institutions switched over to standardized testing, I think was a huge step backwards in terms of progress. Now, maybe that's because I'm not looking at things from a perspective of what makes people easier to keep in line, what makes people more compliant, what minimizes the risk to the status quo. Because stability and consistency are good things when it comes to certain aspects of life. Not necessarily so much when it comes to progress, but I can see the why behind it. I can understand how it is a desirable thing from certain perspectives. I don't agree with it. I think it's short-sighted. I think it's a fatalistic, there's no good end to stopping progress. But when we started teaching kids to regurgitate the right answers instead of analyzing and thinking and being creative in their approach to things, I think that's when things started to slide. When we stop teaching people how to think and start teaching them what to think, that's laying the groundworks for all the abuses and all the just shit treatment by the powers that be to the general population. And it's a mixed blessing. It's if they're not teaching the same curriculum at public schools as they are teaching at private schools, why don't we question why? Why is it the elite get one set of lessons and the common people get a second set of lessons? That's to keep the elite people elite. I mean, critical thinking will tell you that if you have that capacity. But you say that and all of a sudden it's, no, you're a conspiracy, you're a nut. And I really hate the fact that feeling this way kind of aligns me with the people who are just completely anti-capitalism and all this other shit, because it's been proven time and again that communism doesn't work due to fundamental human nature. And that's realist. That's just being realist. But at the same time, just a blind adherence to, oh, well, this is what I think, so therefore it's right because this is what I was taught was right. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So I guess for now that's enough incoherent, unguided rambling from me. I know the last couple episodes have been sort of similarly veined, but I promise we're going to be getting back to a little more structure and things. Let's get a couple things in the real world to settle down a little bit. We're going to have a bunch of guests coming on over the next few weeks. Yeah, and so anyway, I guess we're going to wrap it up. And for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms at I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.